Today we're going to convert metric lengths of measurement. But before we do that, let's go ahead and review some things. Write 100 in exponential form. Well, remember, exponential form means it has an exponent in it, and we've been using a base 10. Well, 100 equals 10 times 10, that's 10 times 10. We're multiplying 10 by itself 2 times. So this is how you would write 100 in exponential form. Now let's go ahead and evaluate this problem. 10 squared is the same as, or 10 to the second power is the same as 100. And 3 and 2/10 times 100. I know I'm going to get bigger in my place value, and I'm going to get bigger by 2 place values. This also helps me figure that out. 1, 2, so my answer here is 320. We can also check that by just using the whole number. 3 times 100 is 300, so we know we're super close with that. Okay. Looking at our notes, here are some measurements that we need to know. This should be at the front of your notebook as well. 1 kilometer, kilo, meaning 1,000, 1,000, 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, 100 centimeters. 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters, millimeters. To help you remember this, you might think of kilometers or kilometers as similar to miles, okay? And these centimeters and millimeters are things that we can see on a ruler. 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters, and that's again something you can see on a ruler. So taking this measurement, 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, we know the opposite then, that 1 centimeter equals 1/100th of a meter. 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters, so the opposite is true, that 1 millimeter equals 1,000th of a meter, and 1 millimeter equals 1/10 of a centimeter. Let's go ahead and start to solve some problems here. How many centimeters equals 2 meters? So I have my 2 meters, and I want to know how many centimeters equals that 2 meters. Let's always start with what we already know to help us figure this out. Since I have meters on the left, I'm going to have meters on the left. Since I have centimeters on the right, I'm going to write centimeters on the right. And now I'm going to write the fact that I know about meters and centimeters. Well, I know 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. Well, what am I multiplying then here? Anytime, no matter what, anytime I go from meters to centimeters, I'm going to multiply by, well, 1 times what is 100? I'm going to multiply by 100. 1 times 100 equals 100. Same thing here. We multiply by 100. 2 times 100 gives me 200. So 2 meters equals 200 centimeters. Now let's say I wanted to write this using exponents, which might help me figure out how many place values I'm moving. I could rewrite 100 as 10 to the second power. So these are really the same thing that I'm multiplying by. Problem 2, determine how many centimeters are equal to 1 37/100 meter. So here's my 1 37/100 meter. Here's, I don't know how many centimeters. Meters were on the left, centimeters are on the right. I write down what I know. I know 1 meter equals, again, 100 centimeters. And I multiply by 100. I'm going to do the same thing here. multiply by 100. 1 times 100 gave me 100. So this times 100 will give me how many centimeters? I do this because I created a rule here for any time I go from meters to centimeters. Well, we might know how many place values I get bigger here, but I can also rewrite it with a exponent, which would be 10 to the second power. And that exponent tells me how many times to move my place value. Well, if I multiply by 100, I know I'm going to get bigger, and I'm going to get bigger by 2 place values. So 1 and 37/100 meters equals 137 centimeters. 137 centimeters. Let's keep going. Determine how many millimeters are in 2 6/10 meters. So again, I have meters and then I have millimeters. Meters on the left, millimeters on the right. Make sure however you write it, you make it the same for what you know. I know 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. So to get from 1 meter to 1,000, 1 times what is 1,000? 1 times 1,000. So that means here, to get from meters to millimeters, I'm going to multiply by 1,000, which is the same as multiplying by 10 to the third power. Well, I'm going to multiply by 2 6/10 by 1,000, or 10 to the third power, either one, whichever you want to think about. If I multiply by 1,000, does my answer get bigger or smaller? It's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger by 3 place values. So here's my 2 6/10, and I get bigger by 1, 2, 3 place values. Fill in those blanks, and I end up with 2,600 millimeters. 2,600 millimeters. Pretty neat, huh? Alrighty. Before we continue, I just want to do a little bit of review. Okay. Just like in this problem, 2 times 4 equals 8, we can get back to the number 2 by doing 8 divided by 4 to get to that 2. Multiplication and division are inverse operations, so we can use them just like that. So we're going to apply this thinking over here at problem 4. Determine how many meters are in 3,400 millimeters. So here's my 3,400 millimeters. Here's my meters. Millimeters are on the left. Meter was on the right. And then I need to write down what I know. Well, I know that 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. So mathematically, how do I get from 1,000 to 1? Well, I can do that by dividing by 1,000. 1,000 divided by 1,000 is equal to 1. I could have also gotten there by multiplying by 1/1,000th. And I could also get there by dividing by 10 to the third power. Whichever of these methods make the most sense to you, that's the one that you should use. But these two are the ones that I'm going to focus on today. So here, I can use that conversion factor. Whether I multiply or divide, I can use that to find my answer. And I'm going to multiply or divide by the same value. Okay, well, if I divide by 1,000, I know that my answer is going to get smaller, and it's going to get smaller by 3 place values. So here's where I'm starting. My decimal starts here, and I get smaller by 1, 2, 3 place values, so my answer is 3 4/10 meters. 3 4/10 meters. Determine how many meters are in 645 centimeters. So here's my 645 centimeters, and how many meters? We have centimeters and meters. What do I know about meters and centimeters? I know 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. Well, if I know that, that's going to help me out a lot. So what value can I either multiply or divide by to get mathematically from 100 to 1? Well, I can divide by 100, which is the same as dividing by 10 to the second power. I'm going to do that same thing over here, divide by 100, which is the same as dividing by 10 to the second power. If I divide by 100, will my value get bigger or smaller? Smaller, and it will get smaller by 2 place values. 1, 2. And now I have 6 and 45 meters is equal to that 645 centimeters. Always write down what you know, and it doesn't really matter if you are multiplying or dividing, as long as you have it set up so that they're the same. Whatever's on the left is on the left in what you know. Okay, let's go ahead and work on our problem set. Here's our problem set. Convert and write an equation with an exponent. So here's an example of what that looks like. Use another piece of paper if necessary. So we have 105 centimeters and we want to change it to meters. 105 centimeters and we want to change it to meters. So let's write down centimeters to meters. I know 100 centimeters equals 1 meter, so I'm going to divide by 100. Whoops, you can't see what I'm doing. Divide by 100. If I divide this by 100, also known as 10 to the second power, it gets smaller by 2, so I'd have 1 and 500 meters. The equation I would use would be 105 divided by 10 to the second power. Okay, here we have meters to centimeters. So I know 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So I'm going to multiply by 100 or 10 to the second power. So, 1 and 6/800 meters. I'm going to multiply by 100, making it bigger by 1, 2 place values, which ends up being 168 centimeters. So 1 and 6/800 times 10 to the second power. Centimeters to meters, so I'm going to use this again. I have 80 centimeters, and I want to make that smaller by 2 place values, so now I have 8 tenths of a meter. So 80 divided by 10 to the second power. Meters to centimeters, so I have 9 and 2 tenths. It's going to get bigger by 1, 2 place values, so that's 920 centimeters. To get there, I can multiply 9 and 2 tenths by 10 to the second power. Centimeters to meters, 4. Centimeters to meters, I divide by 100. 1, 2. I get 400 meters. So 4 divided by 10 to the second power. In the space below, list the letters of the problems where larger units are converted to smaller units. Well, larger was A. We went from meters to centimeters. C, we went from meters to centimeters. E, we went from meters to centimeters. And that's it. Problem 2. Convert using an equation with an exponent. Use another piece of paper if necessary. So here we're doing meters and millimeters. So 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. 1,000 millimeters equals 1 meter. Mathematically, I'm dividing by 1,000, which is the same as dividing by 10 to the third power. Here I lied, multiplying by 1,000, which is the same as multiplying by 10 to the third power. Here I'm dividing by 1,000, which is the same as dividing by 10 to the third power. Okay, so if I have 3 meters and I go to millimeters, meters to millimeters, I'm going to multiply and get bigger by 3 place values. 1, 2, 3. So that was 3 times 10 to the third power. 1 2/10 meters to millimeters, meters to millimeters. I'm going to get bigger by 3 place values. So here's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's 1 2/10 times 10 to the third power. Here we have 1,020 millimeters, millimeters to meters. I'm going to get smaller by 1, 2, 3 place values. 1,020 divided by 10 to the third power. Millimeters to meters, so we have 97, get smaller by 1, 2, 3 place values. So we have 97 thousandths meters. That's 10 to the third power, dividing by 10 to the third power. 7 28 meters to millimeters. Going to multiply and get bigger by 1, 2, 3 place values. So that's 7,280 millimeters. And I multiplied by 10 to the third power. 5/100 millimeters. Millimeters to meters. I'm going to divide and get smaller by 3 place values. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 5. 5/10,000ths of a meter. Woo! Okay. 5/100 divided by 10 to the third power. List the letters in the problems where smaller units are converted to bigger units. So we have C, D, and F. C, D, and F, where we went from millimeters, smaller, to bigger. The length of the bar for a high jump competition must always be 4 7/75 meters. Express this measurement in millimeters. So I'm taking 4 7/75 meters, and I want that to be in millimeters.